Hello, everyone. Thanks for tuning in. This is Pastor Danny, and you're on Elisha's Bears. I appreciate you listening in today and also following the podcast. I'm terribly excited to have Matthew Bimstein with us today. Mr. B, as he is fondly called around here, is the band director of Clinton High School. He graduated from the University of Tennessee with a master's in percussion performance. He also has a music education degree from Tennessee Tech. How are you doing, Mr. B?
I'm doing great, Danny. How are you?
I'm pretty well. Can you talk to us a little bit? What are some of the things that you did while you were at Tennessee Tech in the music field?
So when I was at Tennessee Tech, I was actually a part of a lot of different ensembles there. I was part of the percussion ensemble, as percussion's one of my main instruments, or is my main instrument. I was part of the Golden Eagle Marching Band. I was part of the concert band, the symphony band, the orchestra. I was able to be a part of even the Bryan Symphony Orchestra that they have there with the faculty. I kind of just did a little bit of everything, which was pretty great as a musician and as a way of networking and getting to know a lot of people. So it was pretty awesome.
I didn't ask you this before. What was it about Tennessee Tech that you said, hey, I'm going to Tennessee Tech?
Yeah, so my band director in high school went to Tennessee Tech, and I remember clearly him saying, hey, there's this percussion professor there by the name of Eric Willie, and he was like, this guy is awesome. You should definitely consider studying there. And I also had another friend who was my summer day camp counselor when I was a kid in the summers. He also went there. And so there was just a lot of people kind of saying, hey, you should check this out. And then one of the things that drew me there as well is Tennessee Tech, I was able to actually study with the professor my freshman year, which was really awesome for me to do. And so I had a couple of other auditions and I ended up not even taking them. And I went and I had like a lesson and I performed my music for them. And I just felt pretty much at home when I went there. And so my dad even went to Tennessee Tech for a little bit, nothing too long. He ended up transferring to UT as well. And so, yeah, it was just to be honest, it was just the professor. It was who I got to study with, and he really influenced my percussion education.
That's terrific. Well, of course, for those of us who are local, we've enjoyed watching you and also your wife and your kids. I see you smiling a little bit. Can you tell us a little bit about your family and how did you and your wife meet?
Yeah, so my wife Kara and I met at Tennessee Tech. I was in my 5th year. I was about to graduate and do student teaching and all of that, and she graduated in like 3.5 years or something like that. It was pretty crazy, but we met at our college ministry at the church that we went to. I started playing drums and she started singing in the college ministry on Monday nights. And I told her, hey, I think you sound really great. And so that kind of sparked everything from there. And so then, the rest is kind of history.
Of course, my son, and you've had something to do with this. My son is also named Matt. You've kind of urged him to go that direction, which I appreciate. I may come full circle with that, but how did your love for music, what were some of your early influences when you think about how you got started?
Yeah, so some of my early stuff was, I do credit my brother a lot for this because he's 5 years older than me. So my parents still live in the same house that we grew up in. Well, we moved one time, but the same house that I remember growing up in, right down from McGavick High School, which is where I graduated from. And so my brother was in the marching band before I was. And so I remember as a kid, middle school, going to watch rehearsals because it was just down the street and he was in the drum line. And I just remember watching and being just amazed at all of this stuff that they were doing. And I was like, oh, this is really awesome. I will say there could have been a totally different career path for me because I remember in middle school, we did this instrument test and it was like 5th grade, like, what are you going to play? And I ended up on the test, it was either going to be trombone or it was going to be percussion. And so my brother was a percussionist. He played the drums. We already had a drum set at the house. He was already taking lessons. And so I was like, well, I'll just keep doing whatever he's doing. And so, and so then, my dad really loves music. He played a little guitar, and I had all these records of stuff. And so, that was kind of really my earliest influence. It's just my brother doing the drum line, doing band before me. My cousin played trumpet in South Carolina. And I remember I wanted to play trumpet really badly. And so, just like all over the place. But then.
So it's a family thing, right?
Yeah. I mean, my parents would say they don't really play any instruments. I think when I was a kid, they'd say, I don't know where he gets all this stuff, gets all this rhythm from. But I do remember they definitely supported music in our lives. When I was even in elementary school, I was part of some like kind of singing and dancing group that would, sing kind of pop songs and do stuff like that. And even did some acting in plays before, which when I reflect back on it, I'm like, wow, I guess I did do all that stuff, but not kind of what I think about on a daily basis.
Well, I know in the music, I feel like you can go into a different, there's a variety of occupations or career paths, and
Hmm.
I'm seeing you wearing your Clinton shirt right now.
That's right.
Did you just kinda what was it about being a band director? Was this just on your bucket list from the get-go, or how did you kinda move in that direction?
Yeah. So, my biggest dream was always I wanted to be a college professor. That was kind of like my first thought, but then God has a lot of funny ways of just, changing our hearts and changing our minds on what we want to do. And so, I went to tech, graduated, went to UT, stayed kind of local. My wife and I got married as I started grad school. And so, I kind of, once I was going through my University of Tennessee studies with my master's, I kind of got to a point where I was like, I don't think I can kind of go on. I feel like I would rather kind of, settle down and start, making money and having a job and all of that. And so,
Money's good.
yeah, money's good, and so, that was the decision. And so I had the education degree. It was never like it never was like a back burner, like I'll just keep performing. And then if I need to, I always have enjoyed teaching, even when I was in college, it was always fun to interact with crowds in the drumline performances and, letting other people have opportunities to play and experience the things that I was able to experience. And so that was really cool. And so then, not a lot of people know, but it's like I applied for 20, feels like 20 plus jobs before I landed landed the Clinton
Wow.
opportunity. And so, yeah, I'll just tell you, it's like the original plan. This is what's wild. And this is how God just uses us and how his timing is so perfect. So I had accepted a job down in Texas. I was going to go to Texas. We were going to move. Our life group at the time, had a going away party. I accepted this like assistant percussion person. And then Danny Stone, who was the band director at Clinton at the time, one of the guys, the assistant director left to go to Oak Ridge, Sean Rutherford, and Danny called me and said, "Hey, I've heard your name a lot. I heard you're really great at what you do. Would you want to, do you want to apply for this job?" And so, long story short, I applied, got the job, and then like our life group turned the going away party to Matt got a job party, And so, and then it's funny, I think this is year 9 for me. So it's like, and ever since, it's like, here's where I've been, I've been at Clinton.
So what I'm hearing you say, you could say this is somewhat providential for you to be here in East Tennessee. I know from a band parent perspective and having 2 Clinton Dragon graduates, we're glad that you landed
Yeah.
in this neighborhood. Let's talk a little bit about just some of the work related to being a band director and just oversimplifying a little bit. In the fall, is that like the marching season, and in the spring is the concert band?
Yeah. So yeah, that's a pretty great, summarization, right? So yeah, in the fall it's marching band and that's the football games and that's the competitions. We do actually a lot of parades in the fall because we have the Veterans Day parade, the Christmas parade, and then in the spring, I'm actually fortunate. I have a jazz band as well that performs in the spring, and then concert band is mainly the ensemble that you would see in the spring as well.
Well, we were talking a moment ago, and you were talking about you were involved in other sports when you were younger, and I'm just kind of a novice, and I can appreciate what I'm seeing on the performance standpoint. But I'm amazed at how these students were able to walk in rhythm and they play and go backwards at the same time and not step over each other. And I'm imagining there is some coordination and athleticism. Two questions, kind of a silly one. How hard is it to do this? And secondly, do some of those instruments get heavy when they're walking around?
Yeah, we always try to, advocate and tell people, marching band is a sport just like any other thing. We actually do workouts and stretches and cardio and all that stuff to make sure that our students have the stamina to be able to perform the show at the tempos that we're asking them to perform and being able to carry the instrument. And so, yeah, it is challenging. I think anything that takes work is gonna require, it has a little bit of a challenge. I think anybody could learn how to walk in time and play an instrument. And so there is a lot of coordination that goes into all of this that we do. But, we spend a ton of time teaching a technique on how to move and how to play and how to do all that at the same time. And then what was the second part of your question?
Well, I was just talking about just some of the logistical things about watching these students on the field and just having to walk and play at the same time. Let me ask you this: can you use any student that wants to play in the band, or have you ever looked at a student and thought to yourself, "This isn't going to work"?
No, yeah. We always try to give everybody a chance. We want everyone to be able to be a part of of what we do at Clinton. And so, sometimes being a part of the band is what kids need. They need that home base, And so I can remember in high school that when I left band camp and started high school, my high school had 25, 3,000 kids in it. I was a part of the band, and so I already had a built-in group of friends of 120 to 30 plus, and so for me, that was like super helpful. And I also knew juniors and seniors and sophomores. I just didn't know freshmen. And so, for what we do, I have kids all the time come up to me and say, "Hey, can I be a part of the band?" And I always try to think, well, where can I put them? How much experience do they have? But we try to, I try to also let other students teach other students. I don't always have to be the one that has to teach them. So sometimes it's they're friends with somebody, and if they have an instrument and they can learn it kind of outside of the class, or even, I try to find ways to give them opportunities to play if they can.
How does it make you feel when you have students come through the band and then maybe they go on to college and they are connected in the college band? Is that a goal? I mean, obviously, you don't know if they're going to continue or not. How does that make you feel when there are students who would say, Mr. B has had a big role in my life to influence me to keep up my music?
Yeah, I think it's super humbling. I still talk to my band directors today that had such an impact on my life. So it is super cool when I have students like your son who have gone to the same places I've gone, and studied, and they either I see them around if they come to a game, or I get to see them at school and I get to go back sometimes, and they send me pictures of like a picture of me from college that is on the wall, or my name's on the wall. And I think it's also fun because I felt like college was so formative for me as a musician, but also just as a person. And so getting them to be able to walk through those same places and go through those same doors that I got to go through, I just know that there's good things on the other side of that. And so, I'm not trying to push everyone to be a band director or follow the same career paths as I do. What I want is I just want to make sure that the people who come through our program, they leave with a set of skills that they can be successful in whatever field that they want to go in after high school. If that's going to college, if that's going to career, if that's going to the workforce, whatever that might be. Hopefully the disciplines that they've learned through our program, the work ethic, the time management, the teamwork, striving for excellence, holding yourself to a high standard can populate into whatever they want it to be in the future.
Well, along those lines, and I was reading an article, and I don't remember who wrote it, but it was called The Importance of the Marching Band. And let me read a few thoughts. I was going to get your reaction to it. Marching band is an integral part of high school students' education, serving not only as a source of school pride at sporting events, but also as a place for students to develop their musical abilities, grow academically, and develop social skills used in all aspects of life. It's also a team-oriented activity that emphasizes dedication and hard work, which you alluded to. And you may have spoken to this, but when you look back on your own college career, how important was the band to you in terms of your social and educational development? And of course, you have the musical component, but there are other benefits to being part of a band too, aren't there?
Well, 100%. Yeah, I think anytime you have to try to get 100 plus people to all move towards the same common goal, I think that there are tons of life lessons in that, just thinking of that. And so, yeah, I mean, I don't think I'd be the same person if I was not a part of the band, and the thing is, like, there's the cool part about band is there's so much diversity that comes into it, socioeconomic, backgrounds, all that kind of stuff. And so, for all of us to come together to work towards the same goal and to, struggle, right? Have to figure out how to work together and to struggle, and to everyone brings everything to the table every single day, and we all have to kind of put that down to be able to work together in order to achieve what we're trying to achieve. I think that's tough, and so being a part of that helps you in whatever field, whatever job you want to be a part of. The joke is like, if you can make it through band camp, you can make it through a lot of things in life, because again, it's, you're outside, you're working hard, it's not always instant gratification. I think that's the hard part about band sometimes is we want it to be instantaneous, we want to be able to practice one time and get it. And it's like, I think that for me has been some of the stuff in hindsight that I've realized where it's like, I used to work so hard at this thing, right? If it's a piece of music or something. And then when I watch it back and it's like, man, how was I able to do that? And it's because I just all that little stuff over time, that dedication, that practicing, really allowed me to be as successful as I have been.
Well, you talked a little bit about how you got to Clinton, and there's kind of a providential thread to that. But we're a small town, and there, of course, that's not unusual necessarily. I think we both agree that band is important, but how important would you say that a high school band is not only to the school but to the community, and especially like a town like Clinton?
Yeah, I think, Clinton is I've always said this, such a unique place. It's big and it's small, and as I've been able to, I mean, I even saw this as the assistant director and then now as I've been the head director. I mean, the community is 100% supportive of what we do, but they're supportive of like a lot of things that the students do in the high school field, to be honest. I think marching band is one of the most public displays that we have in our community. We're at the parades and we're at the games and at the competitions and all of those things. And I mean, the band, we go out to elementary schools and the middle schools, and we definitely think about the community impact. I try to think about the community a lot in what we're doing because it's funny when I have students who have siblings and I've known these students since if it's their freshman year or if I've known them since middle school, and then it's like eventually seeing their sibling come through the band program, and you're like, oh, I remember when you were yay big, and now here you are a part of what we get to do, and so
Yeah.
and I think when we get to do our 8th grade nights, that's always kind of full circle a little bit because we get to see those 8th graders try the marching band and the football game, with the high school. And then here they are the next year, at the high school in the band. And so I think it's really beneficial. I think Clinton has had a long history, a rich history of band and music, and it's been cool. I mean, obviously everything goes up and down over time, but it's been really cool to even connect with alumni on homecoming nights where we've really tried to bring in the alumni over the last couple of years, and it's been cool to see and hear their stories. I think that's super unique and really cool to kind of hear other people's stories of band and what it meant to them and all the things. And of course, times always are changing and things are always different compared to older years or what we're doing currently, but it's always fun to kind of hear other people's takes on that.
Yeah. Well, kind of a follow up on that. What would you say would be the most challenging part of being a band director? And maybe on the flip side, what might be the best part, or they could be mutually related?
Yeah, I think for me personally, I think it's the time. I think it's all the different hats that I have to wear in order for us just to do the things that we do, right? So it's being the logistical mastermind sometimes of trying to figure out all the things to make sure that we know where to go and when we have to arrive and hear and understand what all the students are going through and how to manage all of those things and figuring out the show that we're doing and it's just all the little things that I feel like teaching music is the best part. It's like that's the funnest. That's the most fun that I have is teaching the music and seeing the kids and being around them. I think it's just all the other parts that play into what makes us go from A to B. And again, I feel like I like that kind of stuff. I like kind of figuring out all those pieces to that puzzle, but it's definitely a lot. And then I think another thing is just trying to manage all of that with having the family, right? Is in like I think I said this to you earlier, for me, my wife is the superhero in our story because she's the one that gets everybody where we need to go. And I mean, we're a great team, but on a Friday night or a Saturday competition, I mean, she's the one that she's doing all the things. And so most Fridays that she will bring everybody to the game because that's where I am. And then I can try to do a little bit to help, but also the kids really embrace my kids and
Sure.
and it helps us stay kind of together. I think that is the challenge though. It's how to do all of that with the family and just make everything function. I'll have to say this, we have a great team at Clinton that helps all that go as well. It's not me. It's definitely not all me. We have great assistant directors and staff and color guard directors and everybody that is a part of it. The parent support that we have some of the best parents that I know who are willing to drop at a drop of a hat, help out, support. And it's not only just financially too. Our school system's amazing in supporting us, but having people just be willing to help out in any way, shape, or form is amazing. And so it's fun when everything works. Everything moves together kind of in that harmony where kids are doing what they're supposed to and they're doing great and the parents are a part of it and they're seeing their kids do the things that they do. And, it's the whole thing that makes everything function.
Yeah. Well, and again, speaking as, of course, I kind of consider myself someone who's involved in our community with what I do, and then I had a son come through the high school, and I was thinking about public schools and schools in general. I guess we take it for granted that we have a high school where we have a band and we
Right.
have a music curriculum, and I know this is near and dear to your heart, obviously, but how do we maintain an emphasis and support of the arts in our schools? And how important is that to there are you have other subjects, of course. I'm just grateful that we have the music component here, but could you speak to the value of maintaining music and the arts in the schools?
Yeah, I mean, I think music in schools is critical. I think the biggest thing that we have to do is just continue to advocate for it and continue to show people. I think through our performances and trying to make sure people realize that it starts at the elementary level, right? Having the opportunities for kids to get exposed to music at the middle school level, giving them the opportunity to try and figure out different instruments. And that's not just band. I mean, it's also choir and arts. To be honest, it's just arts in general. And then when we get into the high school, there's tons of opportunities for them to kind of plug in and be involved. And so I think it's the performances that we do. It's being visible in the community. I think it's I had some students last year go and perform at the Rotary Club so that it was like a small quintet, 5 students that came and played, just so that people in the community see what that is, what does it look like to do music in high school when it's not the marching band or it's not the concert band. And so I think when you talk to a lot of people, right, if they did sports, right, if they did football, they always talk about the band was always there, or they had that kind of connection. So I think the biggest thing is just awareness, is keeping people aware of what it is and the importance of it. And I think we all would definitely, if it wasn't there, we'd miss it, right? Like if we didn't have it, it'd be a big kind of like, oh, this is something's missing. And I'll just say this, I've said it already, but our administration at Clinton High School is super supportive of the band and what we do. And we're so thankful for them. And I mean, even in the county, I know a lot of friends in a lot of different places where they aren't as supported, or it's just a little different in how they're supported compared to what we do. And that's what I love about Clinton as well. It's big enough and it's also small enough. Not every day you get to like personally talk to the superintendent, and I've had multiple times where I've been able to talk to Dr. Parrott just in passing, or he comes and sees us at the high school or sees us at a game, and really feel like that kind of connection kind of is special that you don't always get everywhere.
Well, I've got you for a few more minutes here, and I'm not even sure you were born when this movie came out, but Mr. Holland's Opus,
Yeah,
1995.
I was born.
I thought so, but I can't.
Barely. I was barely born, but yeah.
Okay, you didn't have to add that part, but all right. But the movie is about, he's a composer named Glenn Holland, is played by Richard Dreyfuss.
Mm-hmm.
And Mr. Holland takes a temporary high school music teaching job to support his family, but that's not really what he wants to do. He's constantly trying to finish this opus, and he's constantly frustrated about whether or not he's making a difference and how he's using his time. But through the course of the movie, he discovers a new passion and his legacy, which is really not so much about himself, but what the difference he's making in the lives of these students. And he really discovers at the very end of the movie, and this movie is like 30 years old, so it's too late to spoil it if you haven't seen it already or heard it. But all of his students come back together and they actually play this opus
Mm-hmm.
that he eventually
Mm-hmm.
he wrote. And I say all that to say this. Do you ever think about the impact that you are having or hope to have on the students in our community? Is that in the back of your mind? I know it's kind of hard. You're in the moment, you're trying to get things done, but I would imagine you're also mindful of the fact that what you're doing now is going to live on in the lives of these students.
Yeah, I think you said it exactly right. I think in the moment it's so hard, and I have had some instances recently where I've had students graduate and they end up either doing something in the music field or not, and then they send me some message, right, or they write me some email or they send me something, and it's like it almost, I mean, it brings tears to your eyes because they just all the things that they say of like, I wish I would have known, thank you for all you did, I understand now what you've done and why'd you do it, all that stuff. Where like in the moment you're like, come on, and then a little bit of backlash or a little bit of pushback, and then once they're on the other side of it, they go, "Oh my goodness, you did all this stuff. Like, not every school has this, or they don't do all these things." And it's just like it's humbling because it's like, yeah, you finally understand it, but also it's like, yeah, I'm glad that you have been able to get out of what we have to see others around and kind of see how other people do things and how things are alike. And so I feel like I do try to think of legacy. I feel like I'm still so young in what I'm doing, right? I know it's 9 years, which it's hard to imagine in my mind that I've been doing something at a place for that long. But yeah, I think it
Well, let me
is.
emphasize the fact, Mr. B, that you are young. Let me
Yeah,
establish that.
that's true.
So let's establish the fact that you are young. But also, do you consider this is like a calling for you in a way? Like this is kind of your work. This
Yeah.
is your life's work right now.
Yeah, I mean, I think one of the biggest things I love about what I do is the relationships I get to build with my students. Unfortunately, the last couple years, I actually had started those kids in band from 6th grade all the way to kind of senior year. There was like a year or two when I transitioned to the high school, but for the most part, I kind of had those kids for like 7 years. Now we're at the point where I've only known them kind of from high school on, but the relationships that I build with them and that we get to have and the ins and outs and the day to day to some of those kids, they've seen my kids being born. Right? So like they have been a part of my family from the beginning to where we are now. And so I do think this is my calling. I think, God's put me and my wife and my kids here for a purpose and a reason. Like I said earlier, I thought I was going to Texas, and then all of a sudden I got this call and it was like, no, this is where I'm going to be. I'm going to be in Clinton. My only ever interaction with Clinton is when I was in college, a friend of mine was doing an indoor drumline thing at Clinton. And I remember walking through the door one day. It was like super late at night, but we like walked in, and then I like remember looking at the band room and then like walked out, and that was kind of all. And then ironically, here we are, and I'm at Clinton and I'm in the same band room and I'm, teaching and doing all the things. And I look up and see all the plaques and see all the names, and people's names that are on there are now friends and colleagues and people who I've reached out to ask questions and figure out how did they do it and how do I do it. And so all that to say, it's like, it's what I do, I think is very special. It's not easy. It has its ups and downs, but I don't know. Legacy's hard because you don't want to think about it in the moment. It's like, I'm not planning every day on hopefully they will remember me for this. But I will say, totally side note, but I show that movie almost every year in my history of rock class, the
Oh,
Mr.
really?
Holland's Opus. Yeah, I actually show that. And I kind of tell the kids, it's like, here's this guy who wanted to be a composer, and then he goes through school, and that's always the stuff you see, right? It's like, if you were a place for 30 years, like how great would that be? And I love the end, right? I always kind of get teary-eyed at the end when all these people come back, all these former students, and they play the music that he wrote. And I love it when the governor comes in, right? The girl who couldn't play clarinet, she comes back and she's playing. And I tell the kids, like, I need y'all to go out and do other things in the world. Be great citizens, be great human beings, go do all these crazy things, but just don't forget your old band director back here in Clinton. When you start making all the bukus of money, right? And you need, don't forget your boy back here, because that's the thing. I have so many amazing students that are all going to go do great things, if it's workforce or if it's not, if it's college, if it's just whatever they're going to do. I think it's always once they're out of the system, they kind of look back and go, oh yeah, there was that time where it was super special. And we're also at the end of the marching season almost, right? We have 2 weeks left after fall break, and we always talk about this where it's like last time. When I say last time, it actually means the last time we get to do it, and we only get to do it with these certain people. This 100 group of students that I have this year, there will be a time where we only perform the show one more time, and just all the memories and all the things, and it's emotional. It's hopefully inspirational for us to work hard and to have a great performance and get to do the things that we get to do, because we are very blessed. We're very, very fortunate that we get to perform music on a daily basis. I teach band classes, but I teach history of rock classes, and I teach music classes, jazz band, concert band. So it's like, it's pretty amazing when I look back and go, this is what I do every day. So,
Well, you've been alluding to this throughout our conversation, and I wanted to talk about how does your faith intersect with your work, with your students, and then of course with the music in general. And I think it's kind of a gift, really, for your wife and your kids to be part of what you're doing. But I know faith is important to you. How does that influence how you go about what you do?
yeah, I mean, I feel like my faith is is the core of where everything kind of comes from when I'm teaching. It's what keeps me grounded. It's what reminds me of why I'm doing what I'm doing. It helps me to remember that every day is such a special opportunity. Every day is not guaranteed. So every day I have the opportunity to show the love of Jesus to everyone that comes through my door. And I'll just say recently there's been some hard times that some of my students have gone through. And just to be able to kind of pray for them, pray for their families, take moments to kind of go, okay, this is bigger than band, right? Like what we're doing is bigger than that, you know? And so I think without my faith, I don't think I would be where I am today. I wouldn't be able to do what I do. And again, that's important even in our family as we go and we kind of, my wife's a school nurse in the county and my boys go to Grand Oaks and the twins stay home with my mom and her mom, my mother-in-law. And I mean, it's all this stuff that happens, but it's like remembering that Jesus came to serve, not to be served. So I get to serve my students every single day. And I feel like they get to see the real me. I don't try to put on a show. I feel like I try to be as authentic as I can so that they understand I'm human just like they are. I make mistakes and I'm constantly telling them that, hey, I messed up. Let's fix this or let's do this. And so,
Or let me get you out of here on this. And I appreciate you sharing that with us, Matt. What's the best piece of advice you've ever been given?
yeah, I'll remember it to this day. I feel like the best piece of advice I was given was in college when Dr. Craig Zamer, who's still at Tennessee Tech, said in one of our freshman connection classes, he said, don't be afraid to ask questions. And I feel like I've kind of taken that and just run with it every step of the way. I'm someone that I'm not afraid to ask questions. And I think that piece of advice has just helped me connect with legends in our field, asking questions about how I can do my job better. But again, to be a little silly, right? You miss 100% of the shots you never take from The Office, right? Michael Scott says that, quote, Wade Gretzky. So it's like, if you don't ask questions, if you don't put yourself out there, you're never going to know what's going to happen. And so I think that's the biggest piece of advice I could give to young teachers is not be afraid to ask questions.
Well, any final thoughts or any other movies that we have overlooked in our movie review section of the episode? Any final thoughts from you, Matt?
Yeah, I'm just thankful. I'm thankful that I've gotten to know you and your family over the years. You guys have always been super supportive and just great people to know and talk to. And it's surreal, to be honest. It's surreal to have students like your son and other former students that have gone on and either do music or they go to tech or they just go out and are doing really great things. And so, yeah, it's just been awesome. I appreciate you taking the time to talk to me, and it's just been great.
Well, thank you for taking time out of fall break. I'm
Of
Mr.
course.
B, and we have been grateful to have Matthew Bimstein on the show today. He is the band director of Clinton High School and a proud alum of Tennessee Tech University. Am I right? You're nodding.
That's right. That's
Wings up. Is that
right.
right?
That's
And as always, thanks for listening.